can make like 10K a month, like doing this, and it doesn't feel like work. And then you get even higher than that. You're like, oh man, like six figures. Is that even possible?
Hey everyone, it's Sean, and in today's video, we are interviewing Joey Gall, and he's basically a seven-figure e-commerce entrepreneur, and he's going to share us his insights on how to become successful in e-commerce in 2023 and beyond. And yeah, so thanks Joey for, hopping on this interview.
No problem. No problem at all.
First question is, could you give us a bit of background on your e-commerce journey?
Yeah. So I started so many years ago that at the time, it wasn't even called dropshipping. So there wasn't even a term for it when I got started. So this is going back like almost 10 years now. So I originally got started and dropshipping was just a kind of an idea, but no one really knew what it was. People didn't know if it was legal, illegal at the time, because it was just so in its infancy stages. So I got my start actually on eBay a long time ago. So there wasn't really a name. It was just like third party selling. You just take a product and you bring it to eBay marketplace, and then you take your commission essentially. So that's the first place where I got my start. And then as more came out, people were like, oh, this is called drop shipping. I was like, oh, I think I do that. When it started coming out after a while, I was like, oh, that's what I do. And then worked with Amazon and now Shopify. And I think that growth process and seeing how far drop shipping has come to where I seen it started is amazing. It's scary and so much potential in it.
How much budget did you start with?
Honestly, like nothing. At the time I was in university, and I was just looking for a few extra ways to make a couple of extra bucks. That was literally it. So I was just like, man, what can I do online to make I've got like barely any money. I just need to make a couple extra bucks while I'm in university studying and everything, so I don't have a humongous amount of time either. And so when I started, the thing is, there wasn't even like softwares back then. There wasn't like these automation softwares that like will list product for you or do any of that sort of stuff. So really, there was like very low overhead. It was just like I had an internet connection that was free from my university. I had my laptop, thank you, that I had saved up from working previous jobs. And I literally just was like spending my own time just to honestly get the products and lift it on there, and I kept the money from the sales. And so it sounds kind of crazy, but back then there was like no expenses, like absolutely nothing. And the only expenses came when like I started growing and then outsourced into like virtual assistants, and that's when the first expenses came in. But that was only because now it was like in my budget, so I now had that money from those profit in the budget to kind of take it to the next level.
And could you talk to us about how you were making it to the next level? Like, what were your biggest successes, your biggest failures in drop shipping? Did you even ever go negative at one point?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think I even made a sale for like 6 months when I started. Yeah, there's going to be failures. You're going to lose money. There was times where I had a supplier and I had this viral product that was selling like crazy. I actually remember it was like this electric light up dollhouse, which is kind of weird. And it was selling crazy well. And this was before you had like softwares that would track your inventory. You had to manually check it every day to make sure that your supplier still had it in the inventory. And so I think at one point I had made a bunch of sales, and I was so busy that I didn't check my supplier. And it got to the next day and I went to fulfill the orders, and I realized that I had a humongous amount of orders and I just couldn't fulfill them. Like the supplier wasn't there. And so I had to message all these people like, hi, I'm having a delay, blah, 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 this and this. And just hoping the supplier would get back the inventory. Supplier said, oh no, actually we're going to be out there and we don't know when we're going to get it back. And I'm like, oh no. And so I had to do all these refunds, and some of them I just had to eat the cost because you don't want to get all these complaints. So that was definitely a learning experience, is that like you can be up massively one month and next month it'll seem like problem. And that's just part of the journey.
What was your like biggest month, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, I mean,
Oh, and your biggest year too. Yeah.
biggest year. I'm trying to think. It sounds kind of crazy because I hate this whole thing where people are just like, oh, I made insane amount of sales, and they never tell you how much profit they get, and they don't include like tax and things like that. And it's just like, oh yeah, I did six figures this month, which is crazy.
Right.
But like my profit margins were like 10% or something like that. And then sort of say like, what about taxes? You didn't think about taxes. But yeah, definitely in that six-figure plus range. For me, just it was like first thing like five figures. I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I mean, I can make like 10K a month. like doing this and it doesn't feel like work. And then you get even higher than that and you're like, oh man, like six figures, is that even possible?
Can you let us know like what type of products you sold? Like what were your
Yeah.
best sellers, the category, the niche?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and then how did you figure out that that was the right niche to
Mhm.
sell in?
Over the years, I've just found what works and I've kind of just stuck to it. And so for me, I found the most success in beauty products. So just not products in general, but just in the beauty niche, also the health niche, and also baby niche. And the reason why I picked these three particular things is that people are very passionate about these products. So, for example, I got my start drop shipping years ago, and like I told you before, with the dollhouse, people were very passionate about babies and toddlers, and they're willing to spend money because they're like, oh, this is a birthday gift for my toddler, this is a thing gift for my, and that never runs out. It's not something that's going to be seasonal. There's always going to be kids' birthdays. There's always going to be a thing every single year. So you're always going to have an abundance of sales coming in, if that makes sense. There's not one product that's just hitting a hype and that's going to be gone in 6 months. And that's the whole thing. I've tried to pick a niche where the consumers are very passionate. Health, again, people are so passionate about health. Just turn the new year, people are trying to get their new year, new me. And it's something that people are going to be forever passionate about. People are always going to be passionate about their health. Same with beauty. People are always going to be passionate about finding something that's going to enhance their standard of beauty. And it's one of these things that is evergreen. So you can always count that there's going to be year-round sales. I don't want to be making a huge amount of sales in wintertime and then I'll be nothing for summer. I don't want to get into a business of just doing seasonal thing like that. It's something that you can consistently make sales every single month. It's something that's not a trend that will always be going for the foreseeable future. And as a consumer that also is strongly passionate about the products. And on top of that, it's generally products that you don't find as many problems with. And when I say that, it's like if you go into the electronics niche or something like that, the amount of problems that you can have with certain electronics, with if you're, like you said before, not vetting products properly, and then you have consumers like, hey, I waited X so amount of time for my product to come and it broke within my first try. And then you have all these things that have potential break-in or shutting down, and then all these manufacturing issues for if the parts are not available. And it's something that, for example, if I have a dollhouse, I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? The dollhouse like breaks, the wood breaks, and the chance of that happening is very, very low, and I can replace that pretty easily. And so it's also a lot less headache with those products. You're less likely to get returns and complaints or chargebacks or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Could you share some of the products that were like the best sellers for
Mhm.
you? Like
Yeah.
how did they perform?
Yeah, for sure. And so the first one I said, which is my first big seller ever, and it was like this light up dollhouse. And so everyone had like all these like normal like little houses for children, wooden, but this one actually lit up. And that doesn't seem crazy, but when I had been doing my research online, everyone just had like these standard wooden doll houses, and I saw this one that lights up and it changes colors, and all these kids loved it because it changes colors. And I was like, oh, that could be a good marketing edge. And so that was one of the first ones that did really well. Then I started delving into the beauty niche, and there's so many products over the years that did well. Things like face masks that went viral one time. These like face mask paws that you could like pull off your face, and that was very big. Other beauty products like teeth whitening did really really well. And I'm trying to think other kids products. There was baby diaper bags was massive for one time, and that was really really good for me. These baby diaper bags, all stuff that was, you know, not much could go wrong, and that had a strong consumer base for. And so those are just a few examples I could think of that did extremely well. Things that recently that have been doing well, and I've seen doing well personally as well. And so that's recently was these chiropractic, how should I say, chiropractic balls that you like adjust
Yeah.
yourself on. Those did really well recently. Right now, a lot of beauty products are doing well. Things like face rollers, any sort of beauty product, I think is personally what I'm into right now. And if I'm going to give out any information, what I'm trying to personally do, and that's definitely beauty products. Beauty products have this thing where, you know, women tend to be very motivated to buy products, especially if they're in that like 20 to 30, $40 range. They won't spend a huge amount of time like, oh, I need to think about this. It's very in the moment purchase. They're like, oh, that looks nice. It's not that expensive. I'll buy it right now. So right now, if you can get into any beauty products like face massages, any sort of dermabrasion rolling devices, things like that, that people you wouldn't generously see that you could easily buy from like your local store, if that makes sense. You can't easily buy it from your local store. because you don't want to give them the option like, oh, I just ordered from Amazon. I'll just go to your local grocery store, Walmart or something like that. You don't want to give them that option. You want to say, oh, I haven't seen that in the store. That's really cool. I have this problem, and so it's not very expensive. Let me give it a try.
But what is your product criteria? How do you decide that that's a product you want to sell? Like, could you even talk about maybe the margins for your products and all
Yeah,
that?
for sure. Yeah, so even though I mentioned a few products that are doing well, I generally try to keep to something that I could see building a brand out of. I'm in the mindset of like, if I take this product and it starts to do well, can I build a brand out of this? Is this something that is long term, or will something come in and wipe me out in 6 months? So I'm always thinking long term. Personally, that's what I think. So it's fine to hop on a trend. Just make sure it's something that if it's doing well, you could think you can take it that next step. But so that's always my personal like ethos on that. As far as what I look for in a product, I do have like this kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a 5-step criteria, but it's something that when I look at a potential product selling, I'll run it through a few questions. And the first one is, does it solve a problem? So does it solve a problem? Second one, is this something I can easily find on a retail store or something like that? So I want it to be unique. I want it to have that wow factor, something that you can't easily find. The third thing is like, is it heavy? A lot of people don't realize that you'll incur so much shipping charges by the weight of the product. So I generally look for something that is light. Is this light in weight? Otherwise, you're going to get killed on your shipping charges, especially if you want to move it fully to the United States or wherever you're at and you want to do local shipping, increase shipping times. That's what's really going to eat into your margins, especially if you have heavy products. The fourth thing is like, can this break down easily? Is it electronic? Can something go wrong? Can it, or even worse, can it injure a potential customer? The worst thing you want to do is have some kind of strange electronic product that looks cool, but someone gets injured and then you have a lawsuit on your hand. That's the worst case scenario, but I'm sure it does happen out there. So you want to be thinking like, am I protected if I sell this product? What is the worst case scenario that consumer has? And then the last thing I really want to look at is like, can I create an effective marketing angle? In terms right now, I am full on throttle with TikTok ads. So can I make a TikTok ad out of this? You don't want a product that you're like, oh man, how can I even take a video? How can I describe this product? Because if you have a problem just thinking about how you're going to market it, it's going to be way worse when it comes to it. So when you look at a product, you should be thinking, oh, I can take a video this way, or I can do this. I can do so many different things with this product to throw it out there. And so that's the kind of the fifth thing I look for is like, can I make ads easy out of this and take a unique marketing angle? In terms of like margins and everything like that, I generally look for a product that I can get 3x on. If you can't make 3x margins, I wouldn't touch the product personally. If you're trying to have to justify the margins of how you're going to make this product work, it's already too much, because more of the time you'll find out you have more expenses than you thought about will come along. So you need to have that buffer there between the price of the product. So for example, if I find something for $10, I'm looking at selling for $30 because I know already my cost of goods sold, is that $10. That brings me down to the $20 margin. Then if I want to use paid ads, that bring me down even less. And now I'm making $10 profit. And that doesn't include if I have to eat any costs or anything else goes wrong, or if like the shipping gets more expensive. And so you need to have that buffer so that you're not like making $1 an item, or even worse, breaking even or going negative. You have to be prepared for that. So I generally say 3x markup up at least.
Do you transition away from drop shipping at a certain point? Like, or do you just use a dropship agent, for example, or already start to buy wholesale and use a 3PL? What do you go for scaling?
Yeah, and so I would definitely think about finding a dropshipping agent. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm finding it personally harder and harder to believe that people are using AliExpress and Alibaba and being able to take it to the next level. I find more often than not that that's fine to get started with AliExpress, Alibaba, because it allows you to have such great margins so that you're able to test multiple products and not incur too much, expenses when you're doing that. But if you find a product that works, I would highly, highly suggest finding your own dropshipping agent or wholesaler. Yes, it's going to eat up more than your margins, but if you're trying to build a sustainable brand, you cannot afford to have people waiting 2 to 3 months for their product, because that's just not what a legitimate brand. In fact, I take it one step further, and I'm more leaning towards getting away from AliExpress and all those other dropshippers altogether if possible, and just straight up looking for a wholesaler in your actual country and trying to work with those margins, just because the transition is a lot easier and a lot smoother. I think consumers are now, I don't know if catching on is the right word, but thinking like, hey, why did I just wait 3 weeks? Especially we live in a time where you can get stuff like the next day from Amazon or even the same day. People are not willing to wait 3 weeks. And the problem with that is that you'll get nonstop emails. Hey, where's my product? Where's my product? It's been a week. Where's my product? And the worst thing right now, especially if you're running Shopify, is that you'll get people like, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm not even going to reach out to them. I'm just going to call my credit card, issue it, and get a refund. They're going to file a chargeback, and that is going to impact, your payment process. So with Shopify, and people can get the payments held, or they even can get suspended and things like that. So at least there's so many problems. So I would suggest starting out with AliExpress just to keep those margin low. And then when you make enough sales, move on to a dropshipping agent as much as you can, a wholesaler. So that way you can get faster shipping times. You also decrease the chance of having a product that could potentially be faulty or could break down. And you also, the biggest thing I find is that you can talk to someone like straight away if you have a problem. Like a lot of these ones, if you form a relationship, you can have them on text or WhatsApp or something like that. And so if you ever have a problem, you're like, hey, just reaching out, by the way, I had this and this and this go wrong. Can I get a refund? Especially if you're leaning towards building a brand, you need to look at what brands are doing and say, how can I become them? Does your like biggest competitor, who's an actual thriving brand, do they do 2 to 3 months shipping times? No, they don't. They do 3 to 5 days, and that's what people expect. So if you want people to view you as an authentic and a legitimate brand, you need to act in that way. And so I think getting to that level is extremely, extremely important now.
Yeah, we totally agree with you, Joey. At SaleHoo, we actually advocate that, which is a transition away from drop shipping to wholesale to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So drop shipping to test the product, and then wholesale to scale. So
Mm-hmm.
we have like SaleHoo Dropship,
Right.
and it lets you integrate the products from pre-vetted AliExpress suppliers to your Shopify store seamlessly. And then once you've tested that the product is indeed a winner, then you can go and do wholesale using the SaleHoo directory.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the SaleHoo directory allows you to find over 8,000 plus pre-vetted suppliers from all over the world. And there's like over 2.1 million products in the SaleHoo directory that you can choose from the 8,000 suppliers. And you can choose your local suppliers so you can find fast shipping times for your product. And you can get that inventory to your 3PL or whatever fulfillment center you're going to use, and ship out to your customers really, really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing service. I know a lot of people I talk to, they have a really, really tough time. I'm like, hey, how I haven't done it yet because I don't know how to get in touch with someone. I don't know what service to use. And so there's kind of this like blank spot of people who are like, just because of like confusion, or they're a bit scared to take that step, they're just like, oh, I just won't bother at all. So I'm glad like SaleHoo does a service like that, so that you can find someone who's willing to help you take that step, find vetted suppliers to help your business grow. Because I think if you are genuinely serious about taking the next step, growing your business and turning it potentially into a brand, you do need to make that stuff. So I'm glad there is, a path for people to take with SaleHoo.
In terms of marketing, could you tell us like what marketing experiments you've done for your dropshipping store? Like what were the most useful things? I noticed you mentioned a while ago that you're going all in on TikTok. So
Yeah.
maybe we could talk about that as well.
Yeah, 100%. So before, it used to be all about Facebook ads. That was the thing. Facebook ads, you need to learn it. And then every month there was like something new on Facebook ads. They changed something here. The algorithms change now. Oh, wait, they've added this new feature that completely changes how the UI looks and everything. And everyone was like getting confused because Facebook ads was changing so much. And they're like, oh, wait, now my cost per clicks has gone up like this crazy. Now it's eating my profit margins. And so like Facebook ads, if you got in maybe like 2015, 2016, it was prime. Facebook ads was so cheap. People didn't know drop shipping. So you were just throwing ads at people, and people were like, oh, that's a really cool product. Let me go to this weird web page. The web page looks so strange and it has like 30 random products that don't make any sense, but it was so new that people were subscribing and buying to that. Facebook ads caught onto this, and they were pretty much to the effect of, we can see that e-commerce is growing massively, but we want to capitalize on it as well. So we're going to start charging more. And so I've, especially for new time drop shippers or anyone wanting to get started in e-commerce, Facebook ads has such a large entry to barrier now, not just in terms of learning technical skills, but also the money costs up front, the just testing. As much as people don't want to admit it, that just the testing for some products will run you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in Facebook ads, just because it's that expensive now. So what I'm all in is TikTok ads right now. That's for the last year, I've seen how TikTok ads have been so there's so much leverage in it. I can't even explain. Like, it's so simple. There's not all these complicated systems are using it. It's literally just like, hey, these are my demographics. These are who I want to run it to. This is my product. Let me just run it and just put it out there. And I can set it at $5 a day, $10 a day, $20 a day. And then I can see which one does good. And then I can put more money into it. And that was literally it. It's such in its early stages, TikTok right now, that the ads are so cheap. People are on TikTok constantly, and that the conversion rates are crazy from what I'm seeing if you get the right marketed angle. And so you can look into Facebook ads. I think once your business gets bigger and you have the margins to put money into that and things like that. But me personally, in my opinion, Facebook ads is just not beginner friendly, and you're going to run a lot of money and a lot of time trying to learn how to do things. I'm not surprised about how many people are like, oh, I don't understand all these lookalike audiences and how to retarget. I'm like, I know Facebook ads is crazy. I've been doing it for years, and there's still new stuff coming out like every month, and I'm having to learn up in that. But TikTok ads definitely is the best way. And the crazy thing is that you don't even really need to pay for them to start. Start an organic profile with your business and start uploading 2 to 3 reels a day. It takes 30 seconds about your product. Look at trends of how people are doing videos, like POV videos are doing really well, or just engage them with a hook at the start and then show your product. Create organic things. And the amount of people I've seen people making 6 figures from just non-paid ads, just organic ads that have gone viral. And so you can then take those organic ads and use that as your creative for your actual paid ad. A lot of people are like, what ad am I going to make? Figure out what goes well for your organic ads. Take that and literally just use it for your paid ads. It's that simple. You found what works well, what's got traction. Now use that and leverage it and use paid ads so you boost even more traffic to it. And so TikTok ads is definitely, for me, if you have no money, start with organic. If you have a budget, start putting money into it. And then once you start making money from organic, then you can put even more money into it. And it's really a beginner friendly system. Like, it's very forgiving. TikTok ads are very forgiving. They're not like, we don't like this ad, get it out of it. Facebook ad like will get you for anything. It feels like at this point, Facebook ads like, oh, we don't like this, we banned you. We not just we don't want you ad, we ban your account. They will just ban your account sometimes and be like, you violated our policies with X, Y, and Z, and now your account's banned. You're like, what did I do? And so right. I'm personally subscribing to the narrative, and I know if you ask other dropshippers, they're massively into TikTok dropshipping as well, just because the potential then is so early still. It's it really seems like a no-brainer for anyone looking to get their first start right now.
Could you talk to us about like what were the top performing type of TikToks that you've created and run ads for, or did organic marketing for?
Yeah, for sure. And so one example that comes to mind recently is just like I was saying, POV. You've done this and now you have this. It's sort of this like script framework. Right. So let me take a product like I was saying before, the facial roller. It's like POV, you put your trust in a facial roller and now you've got less wrinkles or something like that. It's like you're saying your POV is that you've done something and now you have this. And so the consumer thinks like, wait, I haven't done that, and I haven't got those results. It's all about consumer psychology. With TikTok, you have to grasp people literally within the first 3 seconds, which is crazy to think, because everyone says with other things it's 6, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. TikTok is 3 seconds. People will scroll instantly if they don't like the first couple of words that come out of your mouth. And so you have to have the best hook ever.
And how did you conduct your tests? Like, how did you figure out that, this TikTok was performing better than that TikTok? Yeah.
Well, firstly, I did competitive research. So I figured out which brands align with my brand, which products align with, and I saw they were doing well, which is crazy. You could see what they've done and which ones didn't work well and which one worked well. Then if you keep doing that, you almost see a trend and what sort of videos are working well for brands. There's a lot of products out there which you can analyze stores, analyze individual ads, and it will show you how many conversions it's getting and things like that. So that's in my arsenal tools. Like, once I find a ad that's working, I'll just get the product, or I'll have a look at the store and see how it's actually converting. Because you might see a thing that has 1 million views, but you don't know if that's actually converting or not. So being able to do that and see how much is converting really helps you get your foot in the right place. But honestly, I think at the end of the day, it is a bit of, hey, let me throw as many things out there and see which one works. But it doesn't need to be like completely random. It's hard to explain. It's like, yeah, you got to throw as many darts to the dartboard and one of them will hit a bullseye, but you don't want to just be throwing at the wall and all over the place and throwing it absolutely everywhere. Do your research, see what's doing well, replicate what's doing well, and put your own edge on trying to make it better. And then one of those will take off. I guarantee it.
Okay, so just last 2 questions. The first is, if you were starting over and you only had $500, what would you do? And just like a, sort of follow-up question to that one, which is, do you even recommend that beginners start with $500? Like, is that enough?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's address that one first.
Sure. Yeah, I think $500 is a good place to start. You can actually even start with less than that. I don't want to say you can start with zero. I know some people like to say, hey, you can start with $0 and start this business. That's not true.
Yeah,
There's
no, it's not true. Yeah.
no, that's not true. So many people are like, oh yeah, you can start a business for absolutely free and stuff like that. I see so many YouTube videos from other big drop shippers and things like that. And they're like, start it for free. I'm like, but you can't. You literally can't. I'm like, you need to pay for the Shopify. You need to do some testing. There's going to be all these fees that come along. And that's the thing. So I think $500 is perfect. In fact, I think you can start with $250, $300. And like I always said, I'm like, if you really wanted to get started, sell a few things around your house, something, get $100, $200, and start with that. The great thing right now with TikTok dropshipping, like I said before, is like, okay, so you want to start a dropshipping store, you sign up to Shopify, get a trial, the $1 a month for 3 months. I know people have affiliate so you can get $1 a month for 3 months. Great. You start that up, buy the domain, that's $14. You buy that domain, install the app. Some of them have a free trial. Some of them you have to pay a tiny amount to get started. Then start organically uploading on TikTok as much as you're able to, if you don't have it in the budget. But if you do, start running TikTok ads $5 a day and see which one takes off. And then you can scale it from there. So that way you're making money before you're just throwing money at stuff. The worst thing you want to be doing is just like doing a million different ads and just hoping one of them takes off and like you've exhausted your budget. When you start making money, then you can throw it back into the business. You don't want to throw it into the business before you start making money. That's only very at the start getting set up. And so you definitely do $500 is more than enough. I'm if you got $500, you're probably doing starting off a lot better than I've seen other people start off.
So for the last question, how do you think dropshipping or e-commerce will change over the next 1 to 2 years, and how do you advise to adapt to this change?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that you have to have a willingness to adapt. The thing is, e-commerce is always going to change. And people will say like, oh no, dropshipping's dead. It's not 2016. You can't make any money. It's like, yeah, it wasn't easy as 2016 when people didn't know what dropshipping was and it was this crazy thing. But the thing is, you have to have a willingness to adapt, because that's the same thing as saying like, hey, I can't start any other brick and mortar store because they've been doing this for 50 years. And then you see another store that come along and will absolutely dominate. It's just finding what can I do that I've seen that's done well and either make it better or put my own spin on it. And so with dropshipping, I'm sure that the biggest thing I see is that TikTok's going to get more expensive. They're going to say, hey, we realize all these e-commerce people are diverging away from Facebook, which I'm sure they're actually probably thinking about right now, because it's been about a year or so that people have actively, I've seen, been making money from ads, a lot of money, that I'm sure they're trying to figure out a way to properly monetize that or make more money from your ads. Cost per clicks are crazy right now. Like they're so low. But that's the first thing, is that personally, I believe that TikTok ads are going to get more expensive. More and more e-commerce companies are going to be looking for TikTok for their marketing purposes. And also on top of that, there might be a new platform in a year. You have to realize like, hey, no one would ever thought TikTok would have come out of nowhere. And then and then when it did, everyone's like, oh, it's just an app where people like little kids dance on it and things like that. No one saw it as like, hey, I can use this to make 6 figures for my business. No one saw it as that. But there was that first person that went in there. Be willing to act immediately is my advice. Don't wait around and sit around and say, I'll wait 6 months to see if this many people do it. You want to be one of those people that you can look 6 months and be like, I did this.
Awesome. So thanks, Joey, for hopping on this interview and giving all this value. And I hope that our audience could basically take a lot of that value and apply it themselves. And yeah, thanks, Joey. Yeah,
Thanks
have
for
a
having
good
me
evening.
on.